Today we find out what the hell is Birdo.
Birdo is some kind of dinosaur character from the Mario series, spawning as one of the enemies from Doki Doki Panic, a Japanese exclusive title that was eventually repurposed as a Mario game. I didn't initially plan on talking about this character at all, since she's more of a minor inclusion in Mario titles, but the requests to discuss Birdo have been overwhelming, and I can't ignore them. But during my research, let's just say I learned a lot. By the way, shout out to all the people that followed me on Twitter. You guys are real ones, and if you haven't done it already,
what's wrong with you?
Go ahead and help me with my Twitter clout without buying a blue check mark. I'm the Mentalk, and you're watching my Origin Oracle series. Grab some snacks, relax, and let's head back in time. And thank you for 60,000 subscribers. So this video is going to be structured a little bit differently since there's so many random facts about Birdo. So I'm going to try and make this as smooth as possible, but things might get a little rigid here because I'm going to be jumping around. Birdo's debut game was Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic, a Japanese exclusive Famicom title. As many of you are aware, Nintendo would repurpose this game to make Super Mario Bros. 2 in the Western market, reskinning the original characters in the game with Mario characters instead. I went into the history of this game in my video about Toad, but as a quick recap, Doki Doki Panic was made in a collaborative effort between Nintendo and Fuji TV to promote a special event called Yume Kojo 87, which translates to Dream Factory. Now this event was held in the summer of 1987 in Japan to introduce new media and television shows that were in the pipeline, with the mascot characters for the event being featured as the main characters for.
I can definitely see how they got Toad from this, because he has the same vest and the same pants.
Doki Doki Panic. Birdo is a boss character from this game, and while most know Birdo from the Mario series, she'd be one of the many characters established in this title that would carry on over to Mario titles, like Shy Guys, Sniffits, and Pokies.
What is this shit?
So while there were some big changes between Doki Doki Panic and Super Mario Bros. 2, let's first see what we can dig up
Why does he keep saying it like that?
about Birdo in her most original form. The events of Doki Doki Panic take place within a storybook that tells the tale of a dream world called Mew. In the land of Mew, the weather is affected by the quality of dreams, with good ones providing clear skies, and bad dreams having the capability of summoning storms. So the people of Mew create the Dream Machine to constantly pipe out good dreams, and because of this, they can consistently have that good weather. But one day, some frog thing named Mamu invades Mew and uses the Dream Machine to make monsters. Can we get a spin-off called Dr. Mamu's Mean Dream Machine? I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. And if you're an avid Mario fan, you may recognize Mamu as Wart, since he remains unchanged in Super Mario Bros. 2. Funny enough, the Mew people learn his weakness is vegetables, and they use that to defeat him, which gives a lot of context as to why the Mario characters are pulling them from the ground within the game. Anyway, in Doki Doki Panic, we head back to the real world, and this storybook was found by a monkey named Rusa, who is a pet of the Arabian family included as the main characters of this game. The youngest members of the family are the twins Poki and Piki, who in their curiosity start fighting over the book that Rusa found, ripping out the last page where Mamu was stopped by the people of Mew. This action frees Mamu, who reaches out and grabs the twins, pulling them into the book, which leads to their family, Mama, Papa, Imajin, and Lena, to go after them, setting off the events of the game. So Birdo is introduced as one of the minions working with Wart, or Mamu in this case, to take over Mew. And your first encounter will be in the second level with Birdo as the boss shooting eggs at the character. To progress, you have to time your jump to mount the egg and throw it back at Birdo. Rinse and repeat 3 times, and you're on your way. There are a few variations of Birdo that you'll face throughout the game, each with increased difficulty, like a red and green one, but story-wise, there's not much else to the character. So we'll look through the pages of the Doki Doki Panic instructions manual. Surprisingly, I couldn't find a fully translated version of this booklet, but I have my ways.
Please, God, stop! I'll tell you, just stop!
First off, Birdo is named Catherine, which is still the name used for Birdo in Japan to this day. But here's a rough translation of the text below it. A guy that believes himself to be female and throws eggs out of his mouth. It's in a good mood when referred to as Kathy. So as we'll see in many descriptions for Birdo, there
Bro, what the heck? Bro, Japan is so weird for that.
will be no shortage of references when it comes to the topic of its gender. So 1 year later, Doki Doki Panic would be reskinned and released in the West as Super Mario Bros. 2, with Birdo taking on a very similar role. There were minor changes to the story to involve the Mario cast, altering the Dream World's name from Mew to Subcon, and the main antagonist name from Mamu to Wart. The storybook part of the plotline was completely removed, with the events of the game taking place within Mario's dreams. And while the dream machine from the original game isn't referenced in the new storyline, you can still see it in the background of the final boss fight with Wart, spewing out vegetables to help with his defeat. All the Birdo boss fights remain intact, so I decided to look at the manual for this game as well to see how the description may have changed since Doki Doki Panic. Birdo. He thinks he's a girl and he spits eggs from his mouth. He'd rather be called Birdetta. So this profile is pretty similar to the original, or I would even say exactly the same, but this is the first time we'd see the name Birdo be used for the character. And this description would be the reason why many refer to Birdo as Nintendo's very first transgender character. And while it's pretty concrete here in this manual, for future games, Nintendo would be a little bit more subtle about this. Kinda. Birdo is mistakenly called Ostro in the end credits, by the way, and it's worth mentioning because I've seen some people get confused over the years, even going as far as using Ostro as an alternative name. We'd see a remake of this game in Super Mario Advance for the Game Boy Advance, and once again Birdo is featured as a boss. This remake includes a bunch of new features, gameplay mechanics, and even voice acting. So you get to hear what Birdo sounds like in this version.
This is as far as you go.
And that's not what I was expecting. There's actually a new boss in this game too, known as Roberto, or Mecha Catherine in Japan, which is basically a robotic version of Birdo. It replaces Mouser as the boss of World 3, and I'm not really sure why they went with this instead, but it's a nice little switch up as a new boss battle for players. But before we move on from Super Mario Bros. 2, there was a Japanese exclusive sequel called BS Super Mario USA. It was a game made for the Satellaview, a hardware add-on for the Super Famicom, that was able to retrieve information from satellite broadcasts, allowing the player to download games and other media. So BS in BS Super Mario USA doesn't stand for bullshit. It's an acronym for Broadcast Satellite. Anyway, this game looks a lot like Super Mario All-Stars since it's essentially the same game. The main difference here is that there's a whole new story that would have been broadcast as an audio drama streamed directly to the player while they were going through the levels. While some people say that some of the audio was lost to time, I did manage to track down a pretty obscure channel on YouTube with some of this audio restored.
ルイージさん、少し驚かせてやりましょう。わかりました、ピーチ姫。行くぞ。
ねえ、うちの可愛い家来たちを宮殿まで飛ばしたのは、今度はこっちの番よ。
Pretty sure this is a legit broadcast, so I'll link it in the description below. But the plot brings Mario and his friends back to Subcon after Wart returns and manages to overthrow their king. So Mario and the others are pitted against Wart once again, alongside Birdo and the other minions. There were other additions added to the game like a point system and Mario statues that could be tracked down to give Mario some extra life, but I bring this version up since it would be one of the first times we'd hear Birdo's voice.
いい子でいるなんて嫌よ。
今度こそそのお城をいただくわよ。
そうよ、覚悟なさい。
Birdo, along with the red
It's
and
just some guy. What the heck?
green versions, were given different voices, and their voice were those of gay men and trans women at the time, with Jun Dona, Rika, and Akemi credited for the pink, red, and green Birdos.
That picture is extremely disturbing. One thing I don't understand is why did Doki Doki Panic have to be regionalized in the first place?
Respectively. Similarly, there is a Japanese ad for Super Mario USA depicting Birdo with a similar masculine voice.
で敵キャラを演じてるの。おっと。アメリカでは売れっ子だったのよ。
So after all of these appearances, Birdo was cemented as a recurring character in the Mario series, returning as a more benevolent creature in Wario's Woods. And though the title of the game features Wario, this game has Toad as its protagonist, who decided to be the one to stop Wario's antics in the nearby peaceful woods. There's not much story to discuss here, as it's mainly a drop-down puzzle game that pits Toad against Wario's monster minions, but Birdo does join the fray to help Toad, giving him bombs to clear out the monsters that are on the board. If the player takes too long to complete the level, Birdo is replaced by Wario, who will speed up the pace a little bit, giving Toad a little bit more of a challenge. Then there is also Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars for the Super Nintendo, which featured Birdo as a boss in the Nimbus Castle level. While exploring the castle, we see a mysterious egg known as Shelly that's communicating with Mario, and if you accept her invitation to play with her, Mario and the party will first fight the egg itself before Birdo hatches from inside, kicking off the second phase of the battle. Much like her original boss fight, she spits out eggs at the party, who will have to defend against them and bounce them back towards Birdo. I really need to play this game again because I remember this boss steamrolling me as a kid. Let me know if you'd like a stream of this. This was the line I originally wrote before they announced a Super Mario RPG remake at the latest Nintendo Direct. So we're definitely streaming this when it comes out. So from this point on, Birdo was featured in several spin-off titles like Mario Tennis, Mario Golf, and Mario Kart to name a few.
Mario Tennis for the N64 is one of the most underrated games of all time.
And she's even a team captain in Mario Super Sluggers. But since these games don't carry much of a story, I think I'd take a moment to look at some of her many profile descriptions in these games to see if there's anything else we could uncover. So let's start back in 1991. Mario Mania was published by Nintendo Power as a detailed strategy guide for Super Mario World, but it also contains character profiles, and Birdo here made the cut. This prehistoric pink creature can be spotted all over Subcon. Oh my god, wait a minute, I just figured out Subcon is short for subconscious.
Stupid. You stupid.
It guards several gates in the land and spits eggs toward approaching trespassers to ward them off. So here it's established that Birdo comes from a prehistoric dinosaur race. In Mario Superstar Baseball, they describe her as a dinosaur that spits eggs from her huge mouth. Birdo is very particular when it comes to fashion, though her reliance on the color pink is a bit limiting. Her bow and ring are her pride and joy. Birdo's mouth has massive suck that can even catch a ball by sucking it in. I won't make any cliche jokes here, let's move on. Birdo's profile in Super Smash Bros. Brawl directly addresses Birdo's gender, saying, a pink creature of indeterminate gender that some say would rather be called Birdetta. Which is kind of funny, as I've never heard anyone refer to her that way. All comments in the comments section must refer to her as such.
What is the fascination with the gender? Like, the creature doesn't have genitalia, so it's not even an important conversation to have.
Confuse the people that didn't get this far in the video. So as you can see, even in all of these spin-off titles, not much has changed with Birdo this whole time. But some of the profiles over the years have talked about her love of fashion and frame her personality to be cheerful, polite, and helpful in most situations, like Mario Party 8, which says, Birdo's a favorite at parties, mostly because you can talk her into helping tidy up afterward. So do they use her snout as a vacuum when everything's said and done? But with all that said, many fans believe Birdo has some kind of connection to Yoshi. Some say there's a similarity between their designs, but personally, I don't really see it. But starting all the way back in Mario Tennis for the N64, they were established as doubles partners, and other Mario spin-offs since then show that they have great chemistry with one another. The biggest example of this was in Mario Kart Double Dash, where the Japanese website included this in Birdo's profile. Birdo appears to be Yoshi's girlfriend, but is actually his boyfriend? And to this day, Birdo hasn't appeared in any Yoshi games, so I guess we'll be keeping our eye on this if there's any developments with this relationship. Now, even though it's a spin-off, Mario & Luigi's Superstar Saga for the Game Boy Advance would give Birdo a pretty large role since she serves as a decoy for Princess Peach at the beginning of the story. The main villains of the game, Cacletta and Fawful, invade the Mushroom Kingdom and attempt to steal the princess's voice. But it's later revealed that it was Birdo in disguise the whole time, with even Mario and Luigi being totally in the dark about this fact. But even though Birdo initially helps our heroes, she finds herself as the sidekick to a recurring villain in the game named Popple. Well, he recruits her as a sidekick. Birdo just has a massive crush on him and thinks they're in a relationship. They even reference her original bio with this line, "Don't call me Birdo, call me Birdie." It's not Birdetta, but I'll take it. This leads to a whole boss fight against Birdo and Popple, and once you defeat them, Popple places the blame on Birdo for their shortcomings, firing her in the process. This upsets Birdo, who whacks him away with her tail, and then she tells the Mario brothers that she will continue down the path of superstardom. We never see her again in the Mario and Luigi series. Now, the last game I wanted to bring up is a game I had no idea existed, Captain Rainbow. This was a Japanese exclusive Nintendo Wii game that came out in August of 2008. And has appearances by quite a few characters from various Nintendo franchises like Lil Mac from Punch-Out!, Tracy from The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, and of course Birdo herself. The game stars Nick, who comes from Mameruka, the land of the free. I wonder if that's based on anything. Anywho, Nick is the titular Captain Rainbow, a superhero who uses a yo-yo as his tool of choice and has his own TV series.
Captain Falcon variant. Ultraman variant.
But he begins to lose the interest of the public as the popularity of his TV show begins to wane. And this has Nick venture off to Mimin Island, a place where wishes are said to come true. Birdo also traveled to the same island to have her wish granted of becoming popular with the boys. In this game, she's depicted with a male voice, and they directly weigh in on her whole gender controversy as well. I'm sure all of this has aged gracefully, by the way. So, Birdo gets wrongfully accused of a crime and is thrown into a cage when Nick meets her. She was arrested for using the female restroom, and Officer Mappo here didn't think that she was a girl. So Nick, being the gentleman that he is, agrees to help her out and embarks on a quest to prove that she's in fact female. By the way, when Birdo gets angry, her language is rather foul. So Nick heads to her home to find something there to prove her innocence, and I promise I'm not making this up. He finds... I cannot believe this is real. Kids, cover your ears. He finds a vibrator under her pillow on the bed. They don't explicitly call it that, but it's covered by a question mark the whole time. Found in her bedroom, and you can hear a vibrating sound the entire time you're exploring her room. Y'all think she puts it in her snout? Anyway, I guess this is proof enough for the officer, and he lets Birdo out of the cage. Now, Birdo has a crush on Nick. It's no wonder that this didn't make it overseas, but I honestly would love to see what craziness this game has to offer on stream if I can get a translated copy set up at some point. But that about covers the major appearances and background of Birdo. I find it a little strange we haven't seen her as a boss or make any cameos in any recent mainline Mario titles, aside from maybe the Mario Maker games. And they made her a whole team captain in the latest Super Mario Strikers, so she has that going for her too. But with all of this new Mario content on the horizon, it's a matter of time before she makes another appearance. But in the meantime, we'll get a challenging fight in the Super Mario RPG remake. I was actually a little surprised by the amount of fans that this character has, so hopefully this video did Birdo justice. Anyway, I will see you all next time. Be safe. The Prophet.
I just think that most people see her as like a feminine Yoshi type beat. Like, for people who like Yoshi but also like girly stuff, you get Birdo. But it's weird that they did the whole gender politics with her, or him, or whatever. I think my main question, like, through all of this was just, where, like, is that a mouth? I just really wanted to know if this was a mouth or a nose, or like what's going on here. And that question was not answered. The most interesting part about this whole video was the backstory of Doki Doki Panic. Because I've heard that name before, but I didn't know it was about like a dream world. And I find that really interesting that it got regionalized. Because like it's like, are we not allowed to know about like some dream world machine in America? Like what's the deal there? Like, what are you guys hiding? They did the same thing with Earthbound. Like, that's why we didn't get the first Earthbound game. I think I'm going to do another video, but it's going to be about all the regionalizations, like all the changes they made to Japanese games before they released them in the US, because it's always some like really obscure game, and it's always like a very strange plot line, and it's just interesting because why did that need to be changed? I don't know. I'm gonna do a video on that for sure. All right, so I haven't eaten anything all day, so I'm gonna go have a sandwich. Thank you for watching. Yeah, leave a like if you like this video. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. Subscribe if you're new. That's all I got for now. Peace out.